Welcome to Empire Building, the podcast where we talk about building big businesses and even bigger lives. I'm your co-host, Via Williams.
I'm Sarah Reynolds.
I'm Wendy Papazan.
And I'm Seychelle Van Poole. Today we're going to talk about guilt. That's right, we're going to talk about mom guilt, dad guilt, business owner guilt, post-pandemic, I really need a vacation guilt. You name it, we're going to talk about it today. And I'm kicking us off because evidently I carry a lot of this around. So there's that. So thankfully, though, right, for many of us, we've survived the pandemic. And if we were quoting Via, we would say we had a windemic because we won the pandemic, people.
We
that's
won
actually Wendy.
it.
That's Wendy.
Oh, was that Wendy?
I'm the
That's
one
okay.
that like kind of defined like we're going to win this thing, but then
That's right.
Wendy
Oh, the
always
windemic.
works
Wendy was the windemic.
But it's always easier to tweak a good idea than come up with a good idea. So
Well, there you go.
That's
Well,
true.
either
That is
way,
true.
to all of our fellow empire builders, we have come out of this windemic, and there's a lot of like stuff that we got to unpack coming out of that, right? We've all felt lost this past year, but yet we're still grateful for everything that we have. Like, there's been a lot of pain that we've all gone through, yet at the same time, we're all trying to find like quote unquote gifts, right? In COVID, as I keep saying to myself. And, you know, I find too, we either move away from pain or we move towards pleasure. And this year, so many of us feel extreme amounts of guilt for anything that even brings pleasure when so many other people are suffering.
I know.
And so,
I know.
you know, this episode really is more of an off-the-cuff episode. It's a little bit more of a real talk episode because we want you guys to know that however you're feeling right now, you're not alone. And we did a survey online and actually asked a bunch of our listeners and friends what they're feeling right now, what they're feeling guilt around right now, and we'll all jump in and share with some of these with you guys. But y'all, this list is long.
Yeah, I just shared it in I posted the question in a Facebook group. What are you feeling guilty about right now?
And it was a women's group, to be clear.
Yeah, it was a women's group, to be clear. Yeah, and within 15 minutes, we had, I don't even know, close to 100 responses.
Yeah.
And guys, the responses are depressing. You know, it's really depressing. Like, here we are. We all kind of know what we need to do. We've all been sheltering in place. Some people are still sheltered in place. Our friends in Canada are still locked down. Our friends in California are just getting out of the lockdown.
Quinn just had her last day of virtual school today, all year.
Yeah. And so we want to do all the things. And yet what I'm seeing in this list is that people are feeling guilty that they haven't planned their vacations. People that are taking vacations are feeling guilty because they are taking a vacation. And so we're almost in a paradox right now where guilt is just everywhere. And we just wanted to say we're feeling it too. We're absolutely feeling it too.
Yeah. I mean, and some of the things that we heard, right, were like, we had some of our listeners and friends saying, well, they feel guilty for not doing enough as a mom or a business owner or falling short of their expectations. We had other people that said, I feel guilty because I'm not working as much and I'm spending more time with my kids because they're not in school. And so, you know, it's like you have either way, both sides are feeling guilty. You have guilty because I haven't taken time for myself at all. We had other people feeling guilty because they were taking time for themselves and not spending it on other people. Like, I feel like no matter which way you turn, you're kind of caught in a catch-22 right now because no matter which way you're doing it, and maybe those of you out there listening feel differently, but what we're seeing from a lot of our listeners are no matter how you're feeling, there's a little bit of guilt associated with that across all the different channels.
So, Seychelle, what are you feeling guilty about right now?
Well, how long you got? But if we're going to prioritize, you know, I think the biggest thing I'm feeling guilty about is we support my parents and we support a lot of our friends financially and in various ways. And my love language is actually acts of service. And so I have felt like this last year I'm like on fire because I can serve so many people. I have fed so many people. We have helped so many people out. We've financially been supporting so many people through, you know, divorces, through our neighbor next door, Steve, who like won't eat anything but bologna sandwiches if we don't feed him, to our neighbor across the street who went to the hospital that we took care of, to my parents who we financially support. So it's like our team, you know, I like for acts of service humans, this has been like my year. And what that also means is that it's addicting to be able to feel like you're working and you're helping all of these people. And at the same time, Quinn has had to do virtual school all year. And so Nick has been rocking the dad thing. And we're recording this right before Father's Day. So I can say, I mean, he's like super dad. He's been incredible. And that means he's put his career on the back burner. That means sometimes I've escaped into work. Not sometimes. A lot of times I escape into work or running the PTO or the SBDM or putting out a fire or doing other things with work, when really I should be putting my phone down and not paying attention to any of that. And it's created a huge sense of guilt. Taking time off. Like, I haven't taken a vacation in a year and a half. Like, what's up with that? That's ridiculous. And so I'm working, actually hired a transformational coach to help me process through some of this, because clearly, like, I have a pattern where it's easier for me to dive into work. It's easier to dive into being busy. It's easier for me to just do one more thing to do, right? Than to take the white space. And Sarah, you've actually really inspired me a lot with this last year, but to take the white space, actually put it on our job description, to feel like we can give ourselves some permission, which I have not been giving myself, just to be present and to be engaged and to be just be, actually. And that's hard.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I know for me, getting back into taking our regular vacations.
Oh, yeah.
Is
huge.
Is feeling weirdly guilty. I'm feeling, because this past year I was there every single day for my real estate team, and now the thought of stepping away from that, even from a day, a day,
it feels
is
crazy.
making me feel guilty. Like, luckily our whole team has today off, so I was okay with that. But like other times when I'm even going to a doctor's appointment or something, just that morning huddle, which was so important, and kind of sustained our team through the pandemic, like not being there for that is causing me
like anxiety
a lot of guilt.
Yeah, and
a lot of guilt.
It's interesting too that you say that, Wendy, because you and I both usually plan our next year's vacations like in October or November the year before. So rolling into the start of the pandemic, I had a full year's worth of vacation planned out. I knew what we were doing, and then it was like hard stop, put on the brakes, and everything came off the calendar and nothing got replaced. And so I'm feeling like this weird sense of anxiety and guilt around like putting things back on the calendar for the first time. And like in the last week, I've actually put 2 weeks of vacation for this year on the calendar, which normally I wouldn't even like bat an eyelash at. But it took me a month just to put those on the calendar because I felt so guilty about it.
Do you guys think, I'm just curious, because I've been thinking a lot about my reaction to things or my feelings about things, and what I'm hearing a little bit of is like a desire to like go all in on the things we control or can control. And I think
that's a great point.
It then leads us to like what I've noticed in my own life is like I will always go towards the thing that I can control, which in when we're in the midst of a world pandemic and our business is at jeopardy, right? I mean, we didn't know how the year would pan out for any of us business wise, and it was like, okay, well, I can figure this out. I'm going to figure this out and I'm going to control this, right?
Oh,
but then the
absolutely.
rest of my life is like complete chaos. And it's like, but I mean, Nick's controlling that, right? And so it's like,
Nick
it's
jumped in to
like,
control the uncontrollable, and I feel guilt around like,
it's almost like when I came back from that first or second $5 retreat, and I sat down with George, and I had made the commitment, right, to be home every night at 6:00, right? I changed my whole world, right? Yeah, it was a big moment for me. And I sat down with George to tell him about it, and I said, the reality is I don't think I'm needed at home. Like, you've got everything under control. You've got it all under control. Like, I haven't been needed. Like, and he looked at me and he goes, "You are so needed." And like, I was trying not to make you feel like you were needed because I thought that was my job. But then I realized I'm like, man, I have a huge need for being needed. right?
Oh, yeah.
And so part of it is like
It's
leaning
addicting,
toward,
honestly.
yes, it's addicting. It's so addicting. Yeah.
There's
and
a
I mean,
dopamine
our
hit
teams did
around
need us.
that.
Yes. Yes. Our teams needed us.
Well, our kids are never going to make us, I had the pleasure of watching that amazing video your team made for you. And it's probably going to be quite a few years before your kids ever decide to make a video like that for you. You know what I mean? There's not that. Yeah, or ever.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe I'm thinking maybe like on your 70th wedding anniversary or something like that.
Like I had my
but I mean, like that.
Thanks for sticking with it, Mom.
Yeah, but like that feedback loop, right?
Yeah,
that feedback
it is.
loop isn't necessarily there with our kids
Well,
for
I-
sure. And
I think-
I know my kids are older now. It's easier almost just to let them do whatever they want.
Yeah, and I
I'm there,
think
Wendy.
too,
I feel guilty about it.
like
Yeah,
like if
me
you
too.
have a Nick or a George and like young kids and they're both like willing to jump in and own that part, then I turn myself to the 22 other families feeling
Yes.
like I need to be there for them, to superhuman through them, to make sure that I'm showing up for them the way a George or a Nick, honestly, or a Jay or a Ben show up for our families. And I feel like I'm now having to like change gears in my I was not a great shift driver or standard driver, like that did not work well for me, and so changing gears was always very hard. And I feel like I'm really having to change gears, and it's taking a lot of muscle rebuilding to do that.
So, Wendy,
I
what are you
see- I see that.
feeling guilty about these days?
I think for me, it's definitely probably my family. Both Jay and I, we were all in, with our teams. Jay got a big promotion in the middle of 2019, and he's been leaning into that a lot. And, our kids are older, so they're pretty self-reliant. And I grew up very self-reliant, which has served me very well. And yet, this year our kids have probably needed us more than we've been there for them. And maybe they haven't, I don't know. I mean, if I were to ask them, they were probably like, it's fine, thanks for making me dinner every night. But like somehow I just feel, and I think sometimes we compare ourselves to other people, or we see things on social media and we just think, oh gosh, we're not doing. And there are probably people listening who are thinking like, oh, well, I compare myself to you, Mr. and Mrs. Papazian. You guys look like you're always doing amazing. And so I don't know. It's omnipresent, the motherhood guilt. It's omnipresent, the motherhood guilt. Like that's the first minute that baby comes out of you start the worry and the guilt, and it doesn't always go away.
Well, I mean, if you're at work, you're guilty. You feel guilty, right? Not being at home.
Yeah.
If you're at home,
Exactly.
as an empire builder, you feel guilty not being at work. And so it's like, man, we don't win no matter what we do, right?
Yeah.
Well, and I think
Yeah.
like what I'm hearing from a lot of us is just that need to give ourselves permission to be okay with wherever we are and to be processing through that, and to understand that we're not, in a good way, we're not necessarily unique, and that we're all kind of going through that together.
So yesterday, it's funny you should say that, because yesterday I heard this amazing thing from someone we all know. His name's Chris Suarez, and I was on a little private Zoom with him that we do for our companies. And he just gave a mic drop for this, I think. And it's by a guy named Rory Vaden, who wrote a book called Procrastinate on Purpose, among other things. I think he wrote Take the Stairs. I think this is a guy that wrote Take the Stairs too. And what Chris said from Rory Vaden was, we have to give ourselves emotional permission to spend time on things that we need to do today that creates time and space tomorrow. And so it just kind of got my head. It just really, I couldn't even hear what he said next because it hit me so hard. And I was like, wow, what are my values? What are my priorities? And am I giving myself permission to let the things that are not a priority or a value right now be messy or be forgotten or be ignored?
Yeah.
Am I giving myself permission, or am I, not giving myself grace? Am I beating myself up? Am I being hard on that? And the answer is, it's a work in progress every day. But I do think that I'm only sharing this not because I'm awesome, but I do think I'm getting better at that. And I think we all can get better if we're just, very aware of our priorities, very aware of our values. And we do give ourselves this emotional permission. And I would almost go so far as to say, give ourselves peace of letting the other stuff just go by the wayside, a bit. And Sarah, I know you wanted to add to this, but before we move on, I think one example of that would be something we all say all the time, which is that, our families don't care who's preparing the meal. They just care that we're eating it with them. So that's one area, as just one example, that we could say, okay, we're not going to cook. We're going to do meal prep, or we're going to do takeout, or we're going to, whatever it is, we're going to outsource it. And we are going to be there with our family to eat. And that's the priority, instead of flogging ourselves that we're guilty, that we didn't cook the dinner.
Yeah. Bea, what are you guilty about? Feeling guilty about?
Oh, yeah. Lately, what I'm specifically feeling guilty about is my family time. I am leaving it all in the court. So I'm coming home from intense days, working multiple jobs and roles and business entities, and we're all separating out into our own spaces in our house, and we're all on our screens. We're not interacting. And you guys, I don't have the energy. I sit there and I'm like, I just want to watch TV. I just want to scroll through Instagram, and I know I need to go be with the kids right now, and I don't have it in me. I want to fall asleep in 45 minutes by 9 and wake up and do it all over again. It feels a little bit, if we're being honest, a little bit like a hamster wheel lately, like that. And I feel super guilty about it. And what we're doing about it is we just booked, we're all going to the Oregon coast for 4th of July,
Nice.
Long weekend.
Good.
I've got a weekend planned with some friends, including some of you, next weekend. And I'm just going to enjoy myself and not check in a lot.
Yeah. Well, I think you and I, we are similar. Our kids are kind of the same age, and I totally validate what you're saying and feeling. And, I wish that we were, and part of it is, I have one of my kids just got their second vaccine. So we're finally feeling comfortable going out and doing stuff again. So there is that. And I know for our family, we used to take a lot of vacations, and that was our kind of intense family time. And so stripping that away has created a disconnect. I do feel disconnected to my kids right now. Yeah.
What about you, Sarah? What are you feeling?
I mean, it depends on the day of the week. But I would say
also
today,
wah.
yeah, I know. This is like the Eeyore episode. We need some positive energy here. But today, I'm feeling guilty of not being strong enough for my role. So I'm in having discussions that I've never had before or have experience with, and I'm feeling like I'm not being very strong in response. So just feeling guilty of how my team might be perceiving me right now. My key people that are watching perceive me, and so just feeling like I'm not living up to what I should be doing.
So how do you work through that? How are you working through it now?
Oh, I don't know. We're supposed to have the answers here? No.
This is not the episode I signed up for.
Yeah,
I mean, you're still alive, so you're working through it. You're breathing one step in front of the other.
Yeah, I think.
And your hair does look great today
It does look
for our
good. Yeah, go watch
five
this
YouTube
one on
viewers.
YouTube.
Again, I lean
Yeah,
towards the
that's
things
There are
like
correct.
3 people that watch it on YouTube
including Diane
Diane,
Griffin.
shout
Thank you
out
for
to
being our
Diane.
number one
Diane.
YouTube
who doesn't
fan.
even know how to access a podcast.
but she watches
She's
this on
forced to
YouTube.
watch it on YouTube.
I think that's like me controlling what I can control, right? My hair. No, I think, but process, I need to probably process it with my team, just be transparent, that I'm are you do you think I'm a chicken? Do you think I mean, the word that I want to say is not appropriate for this podcast. But like, you know, just asking them like, I don't know. Maybe it's on me. Maybe they're seeing it and they think I'm doing a great job. I don't know. But when you're having discussions with people that have had big discussions before, and then you're the new person, like you're just feeling like you don't know enough.
Yeah.
You don't.
Yeah. I validate that.
You know, one thing that I hear that I love is being authentic in the conversations with the people around you. And, you know, I think, Sarah, if you probably did have that conversation with your team, they probably would have nothing but cheers of support and good feedback, right? And I think about that with the vacation situation with our team. Like I've been pushing so hard on all of our team members to take breaks, to take vacation, to take time off, to refill the battery. And I think some of the guilt I've been carrying is around like, do as I say, but not as I'm doing. And I am having to now go back and do the authentic, very vulnerable, real talk of, okay, I've been telling you that. And now I realize I haven't done it. And so I'm having to go back now and do that work myself, even though I've been pushing everybody else for the last 9 months to do it. So that's humbling, but good.
Yeah. You know, I was just, Sarah, just going back to, I was just thinking about what you were saying, and then it hit me. I had a meeting yesterday, and it all kind of is the same thing. And I guess, you know, what I would say about it is that sometimes we have stories in our head. Like you have this story in your head that your team might think you're weak, or your team might think you're, you know, all the things that you just said, right? And yesterday I was meeting with one of my someone.
You know what? I bet if you did a quick poll, do you think I'm a chicken? Yes or no? I don't think a lot of people would say yes.
I don't think they.
Well,
I don't think they would.
Okay, but they don't.
They're
I
not.
had a meeting yesterday, and someone
Sorry.
had this story in her head. No, it's okay. We'll come back to it. But she had this story in her head and I was like, you know, you haven't been reaching out to help, and you're struggling. I mean, I can see your numbers. You know, struggling. And she's like, well, you know, all the things. I didn't want to burden you. You're busy. I want to try to figure this out on my own. I take pride in not bothering and burdening people with their problems. And I was like, what if I told you that I thrive as a problem solver? What if I told you that it validates my reason for being here and being in this role when you bring your problems to me? What if I told you it makes you look stronger in my eyes if you bring your problems to me? What if I told you I can't solve a problem I don't know about? I certainly can't help you solve it. And so, you know, I just changed the story. And I think the important step there is that she came to me. You know, and I do think that, I know this isn't supposed to be a solutions episode, but I do think that, you know, Wendy, you and I should probably, I'm convicting myself right now, talk to our kids about it. We should probably say, hey, I feel guilty about this. I'm noticing this. And how are you guys feeling? And you know, I mean, like, I just want to say that
they'll probably say, I'm so glad you're not all up in my business
stay away from
anymore. Us. Yeah, exactly.
Which I'll say, no.
Well, I think what are the
must love
steps,
each other.
right? What, like, first is that admit it, or not admit, vocalize, right? It's more for me right now, to be honest. I'm viewing myself as weak because I'm
well,
not,
I know.
Yeah. Okay.
No one else is. That's why I'm kind of saying it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No one else is.
Okay.
It's here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So I think let's give some tactical, like, I know we're sort of a mess, in terms of like our guilt.
Well, and I was actually just going to say tactical is awesome, and we don't have to solve this problem. Okay, guys. So this is something that everyone is going through right now. We underwent tremendous change last year.
Yeah.
Okay. The change was tremendous, and change is very, very, very hard. Most of what we do is habitual. Okay. We're human beings. We are creatures of habit, and most of what we do is habitual. What we went through was very, very hard because we had to change and pivot. Okay. And a lot of us did that very well. Okay, all of us, the four of us, did that very well. We're all good at change. We're all good at pivoting.
The winners.
Yeah, and we did that for our team. And now what we have to understand is that we are going through a similar change, right? Mm-hmm. But unlike a year ago, right? Where Keller Williams and everyone was giving us advice on how to cut expenses and how to deal with open houses, that were safe. There's no playbook that's happening around us, right? And so this conversation is just an attempt to kind of start that up, right? Which is to say that we are going through change. There's no playbook. Everybody's experience is different. We're feeling guilty for going on vacation. There have been people who've been going on vacations this whole year, and we've been judging them from afar. And it's okay to say, I don't know what to do here. It's okay to say, I'm feeling insecure about the way things are going. It's okay to say, I am feeling lonely. I'm feeling uncomfortable. I'm feeling that I need self-care, but I can't do it. So that's really what we're talking about today, is like starting this discussion with your team, starting this discussion with your family, having the conversations, and just understand that we're all going through this together. And the only way that we help each other is really to start the dialogue, create the dialogue, and understand that, again, this is a journey that we're on, and it's not going to change. It's been an unprecedentedly weird year, and it's 100% a process. And so that's really what we're talking about today.
So we give you all permission to talk about this, to process it, to be open about what you're going through. And, if there's something you're struggling with, share it with us. I mean, give us feedback. We want to know. This is something that some of our listeners brought to us. So, we want to hear how you're doing and what you're going through. And, most importantly, we want to give you permission not just to build a big business, but also in this process to go out and build a bigger life too.
I love that. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
We appreciate you guys. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.